Hi, everybody. Hello. Hope you're all well. Nice to see you all here again today. Today we're looking at working with students' biorhythms and starters, stirrers, and settlers. I hope everyone can see me and hear me clearly, and we'll begin. Now, on the first slide, you'll see my biorhythm chart for today. It's very easy when you go online, and if you type in my biorhythm chart or biorhythm chart, you'll get an instant result. All you need to put in is your birthday, and you'll see that my biorhythms are not looking brilliant at the moment. My physical biorhythm, the blue one, you can see the date today, the 9th, is very low, but it's starting to go up. It's going to go up over the next few days, so that's a good sign. My green intellectual biorhythm is also going down, but it was quite high up a few days ago, probably when I was preparing this webinar, so it's not too bad at the moment. It's above 0, and my red biorhythm, which is my emotional biorhythm, is also, it looks low, but for those of you who look this up, don't worry, because what goes down will always go up again. What we see is a cycle or cycles of physical, emotional, and intellectual state or situation. Now, these three that we've just seen are the primary biorhythms. They go up and down every 33 days. They're to do, the green, the intellectual, is to do with mental capacity, obviously, analytical thinking, logic, learning, memory. The emotional cycles work like the moon every 28 days, and they affect our emotional stability, our mood, our stress, our sensitivity, and our creativity. And the physical, the blue biorhythm, affects our physical energy, health, stamina, strength, endurance, toughness, and coordination, and that goes every 23 days, up and down, up and down. And then there are some extra biorhythms as well, which weren't on the chart, and these are my spiritual biorhythms, my intuitive biorhythms, my awareness biorhythms, and my aesthetic biorhythms. Again, you can, if you're interested, you can look at these more after the webinar. The important thing to remember is you can see in the center of the chart there is a horizontal line, and if the biorhythm is above it, that means you're feeling stronger, more connected, more empathetic, you're doing more, you're enjoying more. And if your biorhythms are below that horizontal line in the middle, below 0, then that means that your capacity is lower. So conservative behavior is recommended. And some people say that when different lines cross section, they cross each other, this could be the beginning of some important event in our lives, a critical time. So up to you to have a look and see if you're interested. However, and this is a big however, this biorhythm theory that I've just shared with you, it wasn't received well in the scientific world. In 1998, the neurologist Terence Hines concluded that biorhythms didn't exist. He said it was based on incomplete information. He said it was just made up. He said that these physical, emotional, and intellectual cycles don't exist. He said human beings, yes, have hormonal and physiological cycles, but it has nothing to do with your productivity or critical days or anything like that. Despite this, many people in the world still believe in biorhythms. Maybe we can compare it to astrology. Some people believe it's very important, it affects our life. Other people don't believe it, they say it's not scientific. But if you're interested, there's a reference there at the bottom of the slide to go and have a look further. But what we are going to look at today is other biorhythms which look at the emotional, the physical state of our learners. At the moment, you'll be looking at the screen, you'll be seeing some different students, different postures, different states. Are any of these familiar to you? I wonder if you can recognize any of these. Do your students sometimes look like this? Or before coronavirus, when they weren't online, did they ever look like this? Did you see your students actually standing up, fighting, or sleeping, or passing notes, bored, disinterested, maybe playing with airplanes, or just, yeah, very familiar, Nurai, thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for talking to me. It's more important that you talk to me at this stage so that I can we can communicate. Good. So these are familiar states, and some of these photographs, some of these scenarios, we sometimes label as problematic students, problem students. We say, oh, you know, this student is always screaming, this one is always bored, this one is always, you know, trying to look at something else, stressing out, as we saw last week. But the question here is, are they really problematic or are they so-sos? Now, what does so-so mean in this case? Well, if we, yeah, what is it? That's the question. What is so-sos? So in a minute, we're going to find out what a so-so is. It is, it's a stressed out, survival-oriented human. So if we sometimes see students going, or perhaps they are stressed out, survival-oriented humans. Now, a stressed out, survival-oriented human, a so-so, can sometimes display excessive activity, what we call hyperactivity. Any of them can do this at any time. Others will have difficulty in maintaining focus, maintaining attention or concentration. Some of them will display disruptive behavior. They will be naughty. Some will have difficulty with learning. Some will have the inability to control their behavior and act antisocially. Others will seem to be very, very talkative amongst each others, but not able to communicate effectively to the teacher. Others will have maybe poor balance, poor control over their body, and for sure, all of them will have been exposed to stressors which require them to focus more on survival than on reason. So This is taken from a book which is called Smart Moves. You can see it on the screen. And the subtitle is Why Learning is Not All in Your Head. So the body is an important part of learning. And we're going to have a look today at some ways in which this body works and ways in which we can help the body affect the brain and help it to work better. So remember, I think this was in webinar 1. Most of you attended webinar 1, where I asked you, are you a lecturer, a teacher, or a facilitator? Many of you said, we're a facilitator, we're a facilitator. Yes, great that you remembered. So this is where the role of the facilitator comes in. We have to think not only about what we're going to teach them grammar-wise, vocabulary-wise, skills-wise, we're also going to have to think very much about their physiological and psychological, physical state before we can do anything. So moving on quickly, these are known biorhythms which we know everybody goes through. There's first of all the very well known what we call circadian rhythm. So it's very much connected to light and dark. We go to bed, we have the deepest sleep. Our body is at its lowest around 4 o'clock. Deepest sleep is usually around 2 o'clock. 6:45, our blood pressure goes up in the morning. 7:30, melatonin secretion stops. 10 o'clock, we are at our highest alertness. 12 o'clock noon, we are usually best at 2:30, best coordination at 2:30 in the afternoon. Fastest reaction time, 3:30. So for those of you who are going to be teaching in the afternoons, you're going to have quite a coordinated and fast reacting students. In the morning, they're not going to be really at their best until 10 o'clock. So remember, teachers teaching between 8:30 and 10 o'clock, they're going to be a bit lower, a bit sleepier. 5 o'clock, this is when our heart, our cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength is at its best. So this is the best time for sports. 6:30, highest blood pressure. 7 o'clock, highest body temperature. 9 o'clock, the melatonin secretion starts, and off we go to bed again. Now, if people go to bed at a decent time, this is the way that their circadian cycle will work. But if young teenagers or some of us night owls start working late into the night or playing games, computer games, or perhaps watching Netflix late into the night, we can mess up our circadian rhythm. So it's kind of advised that we stick to going to bed around midnight, and then we can kind of work better accordingly. It says the brain never switches off, but it can't work full speed, full throttle, endlessly. So, for example, it says if the fourth hour of a 7 to 8 hour sleep is at 2 a.m., so let us say that you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, count 4 hours, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So at 2 o'clock you will be in your deepest sleep. That's the fourth hour. Then 12 hours later at 2 p.m. you will start to get tired again. So the circadian rhythm works in a 12-hour cycle. Also, other things we know, in the late afternoon, according to this circadian cycle, intellectual performance, like thinking, understanding, goes up. So this is good news for me. At the moment, everybody's thinking, understanding, intellectual performance should be at its highest point, which is great. Thank you to the Ministry of Education for arranging this webinar at this time. But reading speed decreases, so it slows down now in the late afternoon. Short-term memory is often best in the morning, we're told, but long-term memory is more effective later in the day. So hopefully, yes, your long-term memory will retain some of what I'm going to share with you today. Again, more information at this link below. So that's the night and day circadian rhythm, which is one effect. Another interesting cycle which we are sometimes not aware of is the breathing cycle. And apparently, on average, we breathe through one nostril much more than the other. So we breathe through one nostril for about 3 hours, and then we switch to the other nostril. Now, you can try this now. Block one of your nostrils and breathe through the other one and see how good it is. And then block that one and breathe through the other one. And you will notice that one of your nostrils is working better than the other one. One is a bit blocked and the other one is clear. Now for me, it's my left nostril which is working better at the moment. One is, yeah, they're both working, but one is more open than the other. Right, so my left one, my left one is more open than the right one. So this means that my right brain, my global brain functions are stronger at the moment, which means that I'm more creative. I'm in creative mode. And when the right nostril is more clear, then our left brain works more and our analytic capacity is sharper. And this works on a 3-hour cycle. So one nostril works better than the other one for 3 hours, and then it switches to the other side. It's just a biological fact. And it also affects the way that we work and use the two sides of our brain. One, the analytical side, and one, the creative side. Interesting. Okay, there's also, we go through various cycles of feelings as well. And this kind of, these arousal cycles will often depend on what we are doing and how skilled we are. So for example, let's say a student who has a low skill level at English, and if we don't give him much challenge, so if he just has to fill in the blank or something, so low challenge, low skill, he will be feeling very apathetic, very kind of but if you raise the challenge of the task that he's doing, he'll feel more worried. And if you raise the challenge even higher and, for example, give him a test or an exam, he'll go into high anxiety. Meanwhile, a student who maybe is medium, average skill, low challenge will make him feel bored. Medium challenge will kind of move him up a little bit, and a high challenge will arouse his interest. And similarly, good students who are very good at English, low challenge will make them very relaxed. Medium challenge will make them feel that they're in control, and they will go into flow, which is where they work and they're not aware of the time passing. So what we want to do as teachers is get them up into this arousal state by perhaps giving them a challenge according to their skill level, and this is the ideal state that we want to get them in, this one of arousal, flow, and perhaps control. And yeah, a little bit more information. We have high and low arousal patterns during the day. This works in 90-minute cycles. So there are students who are drowsy sometimes in school. We saw the pictures earlier on, the photographs, some of them falling asleep, and that's because they're at the bottom of their arousal cycle, and perhaps there isn't enough challenge to raise that up. So they start getting sleepy because of their circadian rhythm, because of their arousal rhythm. Perhaps they've been working for 90 minutes in another class, so when they come to you, they're at the bottom. And these are the students who we could encourage to get up and move around. We need to provide periodic breaks throughout the day. When we see students kind of sleepy, this is where we need to get them to stretch, to move without disturbing other people, because it means that they are at the bottom of one of their cycles. And also, I don't know if you can do anything about it, but it's worth knowing that sometimes we will get lower scores if we test students at the wrong times of the day according to their cycle. So sometimes there's a suggestion here that it might be better to give students a choice as to the time that they take important tests. Now, I don't know if we have that ability, but clearly the time that students take their test will also affect their performance. Worth keeping in mind. Okay, so as I said, we need periodic brain breaks. We need periodic, maybe 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, simple exercises, maybe to get our students up out of their drowsiness, their sleepiness, their boredom, the bottom of their cycle. We need to increase the oxygen in the bloodstream, and we need to improve their concentration. So a very simple, any very simple exercise, we could either ask them to stand up, take 1 step to the left, 1 step to the right, stretch their arms up high, wiggle their fingers, and then let their arms drop. Just do that 1 or 2 times. That will wake up some of the sleepy ones. And even when students go back to school in September, even when they are 4 meters apart, we can still do this with our students. Stand up, 1 step to the left, 1 step to the right, stretch your arms up high, wiggle your fingers, and let your arms drop. Underneath, there's another little activity we can do to wake people up, and this is put 1 hand on your head, put 1 hand on your tummy, and pat your head and rub your tummy. So round and round and round your tummy, and pat, pat, pat on your head. Are you doing this at the moment? It's good for primary, it's good for teenagers, it's good for adults too. Now we're changing hands. The left hand on the head, the right hand is going to go round and round. Oh, you have to be very careful because the hand is going round and round, the right one, but the left one is patting the head. We're doing 2 different things, and we're waking up both sides of the brain. So don't just see this as a childish exercise. And if your students say, Hocam, this is really childish, you can say, let's see if it makes a difference, because it will. It's good for everybody, even adults. And on the left, you'll see another left-right brain coordination activity. We can do this together. Move your right hand to hold your left ear, and then your left hand to hold your nose. And when you've done that, change over. Your right hand holding your left, or your left hand holding your right ear, and your right hand holding your nose. And swap again. And swap again. And swap again. And see if you can do it faster. And a few of those, and you'll have your students alert, oxygen pumping better, concentration higher. So that is one of the periodic things we can do if we see that students are like, Okay, so lesson planning. When we're planning our lessons, we need to think about timing, obviously, because we've got circadian rhythm, we've got the arousal cycle, we've got the nostril, the breathing cycles going on, we've got a lot of things going on there. Eric Jensen is a very well-known educator. He suggests that teachers limit, if they've got content, if they've got something new, quite difficult to think about, so content, lessons and cognitive activities, he suggests that we limit those activities from 5 to 10 minute periods. For children, maximum, 10 to 15 minute periods for adolescents, and for adults no more than 25 minutes. So that will kind of help students with these different rhythms that they're going through. It will help them to become more energetic and attentive. So we need to change activities fairly frequently according to the age of our learners. Okay, now we're going to look at different activities which will have, these are different EFL activities which have different effects on learners. Some of them are good to start up a lesson, start up the student's learning cycle. Some of them are stirrers, so they really kind of stir up the blood and the energy and the oxygen and get students high up in their arousal cycle. And other activities will be settlers, will calm them down, will make them quieter. And it really depends how they come into you. So when they come to your class, if they're already, you need to settle them down. But if they come in like this, then you need to stir them up, right? And every lesson needs a starter too, a nice way to get them interested, to get them focused. So these are the activities I hope to be able to show you, share with you. Some of them you may already know, but it's worth reviewing and just seeing which of these are stirrers, which of them are settlers, and which would be good as starters. If you have a look, there's our friend Brain Gym that I mentioned last week in stress management. We're going to do some Brain Gym in a minute, a bit more. There's some dictation activities. For those of you not familiar with VAK, you will find out during this webinar later on. There's science experiments, there's what's this picture, there's teams and buzzers. These are the buzzers. There's copying and categorizing, there's clothesline stories, cartoon making, and bingo. You're doing most of those, that's great. Well done, Sehed. Fantastic. So all of these kind of have a place in your lesson plan and should be regularly up there. So we're going to have a look at how we can balance these throughout the lesson when we're planning our lessons. Okay, so starting with Brain Gym, the philosophy of Brain Gym, which I mentioned last week, was movement. Movement is the door to learning. I mentioned that brain gym is not beyin fırtınası, it's beyin jimnastiği. It's a program of 26 exercises. Each one is working on a different part of our body and our brain to help different skills and functions. Today I'm going to do, I did one last week with you, I'm going to do the first 4 basic brain gym activities with you. Before we start, I'm going to just ask you to just think how you're feeling right now, and just write down a number on a scale of totally relaxed, totally bored, totally sleepy, right up to really stressed, really tight, really... So where are you now? Give yourselves a number. Are you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Okay, so we've got people who are 5s, we've got people who are 2s and 4s, 5s, 2s, 6s, 7s, 3s, okay, right, okie dokie, yep, all right. Oh, we got someone who's a 9. Okay, I'll be interested to see whether after the next few exercises, whether this is going to change for you or not.